Welcome back to the semifinals game of GP Essen. So here we have InsertName versus Purplemurasaki. InsertName is on Bant Barx, which is a mid-rangey value deck that intends to use a lot of one-mana cantripping artifacts in order to enable its super early Barx, and also get a lot of permanent types for cards such as Tamio, and also so that they have a Posey target for Posey's 0 abilities so that they can get a lot of free 3/3s. And meanwhile, Purplemurasaki is on Cosmic Thunder Princess, which is a 4-color Cane Dancer Confirm Bounty deck. It runs Confirm Hypothesis plus the Shifting Lands so that they can play 2-mana Rampant Growth that also draws a card. And then they also have Ready for Anything, which draws a card that makes a tap treasure token. So they have lots of ways of getting to 4 mana on turn 3, where they intend to either play two 2-mana spells such as Portal Fracture and Cane Dance on the same turn, and also getting to 4 lands also turns on Portal Fracture, or they just play Commanding Princess, which has a lot of modes, all of which do good stuff. And then I guess to finish off the game, they have Cosmic Coalescing and Thunder Roads. So anyways, InsertName plays out Warrior Tome on turn 1, Purplemurasaki just cracks their Shifting Land on turn 1, and now they have turn 2 Confirm on the Shifting Land. Now Purplemurasaki has basically the perfect hand here. I guess the only thing they're really missing is maybe something like a 4-drop to ramp into, although King Dancer plus 4 factor is good enough as is. Yeah, basically, I don't think Purplemurasaki could have asked for a better hand this game. InsertName is going to draw off Warrior Tome and then play Terraformer's Globe, so that's their other 1-mana cantripping artifact. And then I guess they can play another land and another 1-mana cantripping artifact. Problem with InsertName's hand right now is that they don't really have any payoffs, so they don't have Barx or Tamio or Posey, in fact. Oh yeah, and Purplemurasaki goes for end of turn Confirm on the Shifting Land. But anyways, so InsertName has Union Rail Strikebreaker, but you want that thing down before you start casting all your cantripping artifacts, not after. And the same goes for Embodied Soul, actually. So yeah, a bit unfortunate for InsertName to get out of their cantripping artifacts, but none of the payoffs. But Purplemurasaki is just resolving Confirm Hypothesis. And yeah, now they have 4 lands on turn 3, and they're basically ready for anything that InsertName can do. They can end up turn ready for anything, get to 5 mana, and then next turn they're on top with 6 mana. And then now they have enough mana to augment the Thunder Roads too. So I feel like this game is squarely in Purplemusaki's court right now. They can do something like Portal Fracture, whatever InsertName plays, and then ready for anything afterwards. InsertName's still not drawing any payoffs. They keep drawing cantripping artifacts, but just doing nothing and drawing cards right now isn't very helpful, because Purplemusaki's about to get to 6 mana and they're about to cast an augmented Thunder Roads, and InsertName has nothing that they can do against it. Event Horizons don't really hit anything useful right now. I guess they can exile Bounty of the Garden tokens, but Purplemurasaki isn't on the Bounty plan right now. They're on the Thunder Roads plan. Oh, Toddy. Okay, I guess that's something that's pretty useful. But InsertName can't cast it because they don't have enough mana. And they just pass, holding up Event Horizon, I guess. I feel like they probably should have tried to run out Union Rail Strikebreaker and get it countered, because now Toddy's going to be at risk of getting countered. I guess they're just holding up Event Horizon for Bounty of the Gardens. Or does Purplemurasaki have any Planeswalkers? I don't think they do. Yeah, no, the only thing that they can really hit with Event Horizon is Bounty of the Garden tokens. Or I guess King Dancers, but like, that's not very good. You can hit Mabel too, but that's still not a very good trade. A heads-up play that InsertName can do is to Event Horizon the tapped treasure token that Purplemurasaki makes off Ready for Anything. And then if InsertName makes that play, they're just banking on Purplemurasaki not having a 5th land, because keeping Purplemurasaki off the 5th land means they can't augment Thunder Roads. But I don't think it's worth it because it's just so low value. But maybe you do it anyways because you don't have a better Event Horizon target right now. And yeah, Purplemurasaki cracks their Shifting Land. And now they're up to 6 mana on turn 4, which is quite a lot of mana to be at when you're playing basically only mono blue ramp. I guess the question for Purplemurasaki is whether they want to snap off the augmented Thunder Roads or just pass and keep up King Dancer plus Portal Fracture plus Cosmic Synco, and then they can also end up turn Mabel. I think Purplemurasaki is probably better served just keeping stuff up for now. They're planning to play Renewal Grove and pass, and that's passing with 6 mana up. InsertName does have Cosmic Synco in their main deck, so that is something Purplemurasaki can play around. And another Event Horizon, so not a very useful draw for InsertName. They're on 4 mana on turn 4, naming 2 colors with Nebula. So they can try to run out Toddy, but it's almost certainly going to get countered if they try to do that. But maybe they want to do it anyways. Oh, or they're running out Union Rail Strikebreaker. Yeah, they're going to play Union Rail first and try to bait a counter spell that way. So now Purplemurasaki can counter this thing, but they're going to have to use 2 counter spells to do it. They can either Portal Fracture plus Cosmic Sinkhole, or actually no, they can just Sinkhole for 3, and that will counter it pretty nicely. If they Sinkhole for 3, then they can't Mabel, and they can't really Cane Dancer either end of turn because, well actually no, they can just Cane Dancer back to Ready for Anything. So yeah, Cosmic Sinkhole for 3, they're going to Portal Fracture instead, and I guess InsertName pays for Portal Fracture. Portal Fracture still makes the tokens though. And paying for Portal Fracture means that InsertName doesn't get to trigger Union Rail Strikebreaker on the same turn that it enters play, which gives Purplemurasaki a chance to kill the Union Rail Strikebreaker before it starts making tokens. Although at this point, I don't think Purplemurasaki really needs to kill the Strikebreaker. They can just go face with Thunder Roads and win that way. I don't think InsertName really has a good way to gain life in their deck. I guess Toddy works, but I don't think Toddy's ever going to resolve in this current situation. Purplemurasaki's going to Portal Fracture and then Cosmic Sinkhole. And then I guess they're probably going to end up turn Cane Dancer, the Ready for Anything. Yeah, it seems like that's what they're doing. So there's Ready for Anything, drawing another card, making another treasure, and they grind to Cosmic Coalescing. I think Purplemurasaki has the game pretty wrapped up, especially since InsertName has no counter spells. They're just going to end up turn Cosmic Coalescing, and then the next turn they Thunder Rolls for lethal. And yeah, Purplemurasaki just plays the land and passes because they don't really need to do anything. But actually they can just attack with everything and knock InsertName down to 13, so that's easier to get the kill off Cosmic Coalescing. So yeah, Purplemurasaki swings in for 3. InsertName and taps and draws a land. And I think Purplemurasaki is out of counter spells. At least they have King Dancer, Portal Fracture. InsertName has 5 mana, so they can play Toddy and pay for a Portal Fracture. Unfortunately, I don't think that's really going to stop InsertName from losing this game. So yeah, so they lead off on Toddy. And Purplemurasaki is going to try to Cane Dancer, and then I guess get back Portal Fracture. InsertName pays for a Portal Fracture. The Toddy resolves. Purplemurasaki makes 2 tokens off the Wanderlust. InsertName can either +2 Toddy to gain 2 life or +1 Toddy to make tokens, and I think they're probably going to +1 Toddy because they need tokens to block for Toddy. Although Toddy still dies just to attacks on the board, but Purplemurasaki is just going to snap off the Thunder Roads, probably pointing all of it at face. Yeah, so that's 9 damage, and then Purplemurasaki gains 9. And I think the game is pretty much over now. Purplemurasaki can attack for lethal, but if that doesn't work, then they can also Cosmic Coalescing. And yeah, InsertName just concedes. Looking at the sideboard, InsertName, they have Bind the Mind, still Pandemonium to counter Purplemurasaki's spells, Neutralize to also counter Purplemurasaki's spells. And meanwhile, Purplemurasaki has a very boxy board because they have Cosmic Coalescing, which allows them to fetch from the board, but they're still going to bring in 2 still Pandemoniums because that's just really good in non-creature matchups. And I think that's probably everything they're going to bring in because everything else they can just fetch off Cosmic Coalescing. Okay, we're back for game 2, and InsertName gets a hand that's very similar to their hand last game, and they're going to mulligan that because they have nothing. So I think this hand's actually a lot better because now they have Embodied Soul on turn 1, which Purplemurasaki doesn't have an easy way. Actually, no, they have End of All Things. They can just answer that. InsertName does have Embodied Soul followed by a bunch of cantripping artifacts to upgrade it. Meanwhile, Purplemurasaki has a hand that has a decent curve. They have Thunder Road, they have End of All Things to answer the Embodied Soul, but they don't have Confirm or Ready for Anything on turn 2 to ramp. But they're going to keep it anyways because it's a pretty workable hand, and they're thinking about what to Mabel. And yeah, there's no really obvious Mabel target here because you don't have an excess of lands, so you're not going to be first making away your lands. In fact, you really need to get to 3 mana, so you want to keep all 3 of your lands. But that means you're going to have to first mate away one of your spells. Honestly, it might be Thunder Roads because Thunder Roads comes in too late. So yeah, because Thunder Roads usually cast once you're about to win the game. And like InsertName has a pretty slow deck, so you don't really need to Thunder Roads early to stay alive. Although Thunder Roads does help you kill Planeswalkers, but no, Purplemurasaki is going to first mate away the Bounty, which I guess sort of makes sense because Purplemurasaki doesn't have any ways to ramp early, so Gardens is going to stay small for a bit longer than they really want to. And InsertName leading off as turn 1 Embodied Soul, sneaking in under Purplemurasaki's counter spells. Purplemurasaki draws Commanding Princess, but again, no way to ramp into it. But it will still be a pretty good turn 4 play if they get the lands they need. So Purplemurasaki playing Nebula on 2, naming blue-red, and passing. InsertName drawing a counter spell. That'll be pretty useful, because they can keep up Cinco on 1 against Purplemurasaki. Although keeping up counter spells means that they're not activating Embodied Soul, but it's not like they really need to swing with Embodied Soul early because both decks are pretty slow. So if InsertName can secure an advantage, then Embodied Soul will just win them the game eventually. But InsertName is going to tap out for Sealed Riftway, which draws them a card, upgrades Soul, and puts an artifact on board. Fortunately for InsertName, I don't think Purplemurasaki has any turn 2 plays, so yeah, they do Swift and Grow, but no Confirm Hypothesis. So InsertName didn't get punished for tapping out on turn 2. Now Purplemurasaki needs to think about, well, they can't really do anything, so they're just going to pass. And next turn they're going to Mabel, but that might be a bit late because InsertName will have counter spells up by then. So the real line will also allow InsertName to trigger Embodied Soul without spending any mana. InsertName is going to lead off on activating Embodied Soul, I guess. And I guess they're going to play the Praying Line right now, which returns their tap land, creating Embodied Soul, because that's a non-creature spell. And InsertName swings in for 3. Passing the turn, holding up Still Pandemonium and Cosmic Sinkhole. So Purplemurasaki gets Fractured Reach. You can try to cast something this turn, but it's probably going to run straight into the Cosmic Sinkhole or the Still. But since Purplemurasaki is an instant speed deck, they can just play a land and pass to make InsertName waste 2 mana on their turn. And then next turn they can try to resolve one of their spells, and if it gets countered, then Purplemurasaki can tap and then try it again to cast something. But InsertName will be able to hold up Sinkhole plus Still. Or I guess Sinkhole for 2 plus Still Pandemonium, so they'll be able to counter 2 things that Purplemurasaki does. InsertName playing Motion Monastery untapped. They're going to animate Embodied Soul, I guess, and then swing in for 3. And Purplemurasaki thinking about whether to run their End of All Things into a counter spell or not. Because if they End of All Things now and InsertName counters it, then Embodied Soul gets upgraded, and then Purplemurasaki gets slapped for 4 instead. Purplemurasaki is just going to take. I think Purplemurasaki is waiting for InsertName to tap out before they try to End of All Things Embodied Soul. Yeah, Purplemurasaki is going to play Mabel instead, buying them a card and gaining them some life, just to stall the game a bit more, and InsertName decides to Cosmic Sinkhole that, I guess. And I guess, yeah, InsertName realizing that they won't have double blue for Still Pandemonium if they Sinkhole here. So they're just going to let Mabel resolve and draw Purplemurasaki a card, which happens to be a land again. And yeah, there's a confirmed hypothesis. So Purplemurasaki being confirmed hypothesis plus shifting land, although a bit late, but better late than never. And they're just going to pass. And they pass holding up Princess, I think. Yeah, they have mana for Princess. So they're holding up a bunch of things right now. Now Purplemurasaki is thinking about whether to do something during InsertName's upkeep. I guess they can go for confirm on the shifting, and if it gets countered, then that's alright because it made InsertName waste a counter spell on something that doesn't matter as much. Yeah, so they're going to confirm hypothesis on their shifting land now, and InsertName is free to counter that if they want to. No, they're going to confirm their opponent's fetch. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. So yeah, InsertName is thinking about whether to counter that or not. I think InsertName probably wants to counter it because they don't really have anything else in hand, and after countering confirm, they can just... Oh, they're going to Sinkhole to confirm instead of using Still Pandemonium. I feel like that's a bit weird because Cosmic Sinkhole is ironically easier to cast here because Real 9 not working with Terraformer's Globe, and Still Pandemonium requiring double blue. Oh, right, and confirm, since confirm got countered, it goes to the graveyard instead of being exiled, which means Purplemurasaki can chain dancer to confirm and then get the confirm through that way. Now Purplemurasaki gets to copy the Ultra Monastery ability, which allows them to fetch a land and draw a card off to confirm. And Purplemurasaki draws Still Pandemonium. Not bad. Purplemurasaki fetching a mountain off the Ocean Monastery, which is not legal. Okay, yeah, after Judge Call, Purplemurasaki correctly fetches an island instead. And now InsertName fetches a Pool of Light off the Ocean Monastery. And they draw Universal Strikebreaker. So after fighting it out on the stack during their upkeep, they only have 2 mana up now. And they're going to play... They're not going to hold up Still Pandemonium. That feels a bit dangerous. And instead, they're going to just pay for Embodied Soul and swing in with it. And Purplemurasaki is going to really punish that play because they're going to crack their shifting land, and then next turn they untap and get to go up to 6 mana by playing a land. And now they get to End of All Things while InsertName is tapped out, which gets rid of the Embodied Soul that InsertName worked so hard to build up. And they can even follow up with Thunder Road if they want to really wreck InsertName's life total as well. Actually, can they? I guess they can't because they don't have the right mana colors to do that. Okay, so I guess they can End of All Things while InsertName is tapped out to get rid of their Embodied Soul, and then still puts them pretty far ahead because no InsertName doesn't have any threats to work with. They can play Universal Strikebreaker next turn and hope to draw into a non-creature spell to trigger it once, but a bunch of 1/1s isn't very threatening for Purplemurasaki's board because they have plenty of things to block 1/1s with, and even if they're in danger, they can just Thunder Rolls and gain some life. Yeah, Purplemurasaki plays Fractured Reach. They're going to swing in with both the creatures, whacking InsertName for 3. And they're not going to End of All Things while InsertName is tapped out. That's strange. I guess they really want to augment Thunder Rolls off the End of All Things. Because yeah, now that it's the opponent's turn, Fractured Reach is active, so Purplemurasaki can make the right colors of mana in order to augment Thunder Rolls. But giving InsertName a chance to untap means that now End of All Things on the Embodied Soul won't be able to resolve. And InsertName draws Barx, finally. But they're going to lead off on Union Rail Strikebreaker, which makes sense. They want Barx to trigger Union Rail. Purplemurasaki lets it resolve because, again, it's not too much of a threat currently. And certainly follows up with Barx, exiling Terraformer's Globe. Purplemurasaki is thinking about whether they want to steal the Pandemonium out of Barx. I guess that's why they didn't end of all things. Well, no, this still makes no sense. If they're trying to play around Cosmic Sinkhole, they should end of all things the embodied soul when InsertName was tapped out. So seems like they just weren't intending on using end of all things on embodied soul. They'd rather wait and see what else InsertName plays before committing on using end of all things on something. So instead, Purplemurasaki plays Commanding Princess. InsertName lets it resolve. And, alright, Commanding Princess kills enchantments. Right. Okay, never mind. Yeah, that's why they didn't use End of All Things, because Commanding Princess gets rid of Embodied Soul for free, in addition to killing the Union Rail Strikebreaker and gaining 2 life. Wow, that's a huge swing here. And InsertName won't be able to counter Commanding Princess with their Still a Pandemonium, because that thing only counters non-creature spells. So Purplemurasaki was just waiting for InsertName to play out another target for Commanding Princess's other modes before playing Commanding Princess to get rid of the Embodied Soul. And then they follow up with Still Pandemonium just to rub some salt in the wound and counter the Barx. But at least the Terraformer's Globe comes back, which allows InsertName to draw another card, and maybe they draw into something they can cast. Yeah, InsertName's not going to bother using Still Pandemonium to get their own Barx through, but Terraformer's Globe comes back into play and draws Insert Name a Tamio, which is very good, because now they can play out Tamio, and I guess they can -2 it to draw some cards, which is probably the best use, because +1 doesn't really get them anything. So yeah, they're going to cast Tamio. They're going to -2 Tamio, which gets them 4 cards because land, planeswalker, artifact, creature. And they did board Tidal Spite. I wonder why, though. Because, oh, I guess it bounces bounty of the Guardian tokens. Yeah, that makes sense. Too bad Tidal Spite won't be useful here because Purplemurasaki's board is entirely ETB creatures. So now that InsertName's tapped out, is Purplemurasaki ready to go for an Augmented Thunder Roads? Or they'd rather hold up End of All Things for even more stuff. They're going to attack first, and they're going to direct all their attacks at Tamio. Or they're going to run Command Princess into the Construct. Does Purplemurasaki have a way of getting Commanding Princess back? I guess Purplemurasaki just doesn't really care that much about Commanding Princess staying alive, because it's already done its job. Purplemurasaki plays another land and passes the turn on a lot of mana. 7 mana, in fact. And they have King Dancer Still Pandemonium up as a counter spell, in case the opponent tries to do something funny. I guess Purplemurasaki is thinking about whether they want to augment Thunder Roads now. Well, InsertName's tapped out and they decide not to. They'd rather wait and see what InsertName's going to do. InsertName draws another land. I don't think lands are that helpful right now, although it's not the worst thing in the world because InsertName's deck is a bit mana hungry. Purplemurasaki's thinking about whether to counter it or not. I think Purplemurasaki should just let it resolve because it's a bit too late for Embodied Soul to really do anything useful, and if it goes out of control, you can always End of All Things it. Yeah, Purplemurasaki lets it resolve. They'd rather save King Dancer and Still a Pandemonium for maybe a Planeswalker, just something more threatening. InsertName plays Barx, exiling the Terraformer's Globe. Is Purplemurasaki going to counter this one? Well, I guess the thing is, if you counter Barx, InsertName draws a card anyways, and they might draw into what they want. You let Barx resolve, it +1s, and it basically just draws InsertName a card. So no matter what you do here, Barx is always going to essentially draw InsertName a card. But if the game ends before Barx can plus again, then the outcome is basically the same. Purplemurasaki is going to King Dancer on Still Pandemonium to counter the Barx. And it seems like InsertName is going to Sealed Riftway Purplemurasaki in response to get rid of Purplemurasaki's graveyard. So yeah, pretty good play from InsertName. But Purplemurasaki is going to use End of All Things to counter the Sealed Riftway ability. Well, they're thinking about it. No, they're just going to let it resolve. They'd rather save End of All Things for Embodied Soul. And I guess that makes sense because if Purplemurasaki tried to counter the Sealed Riftway ability and InsertName counters the End of All Things, then End of All Things goes in the graveyard and gets exiled by Sealed Riftway. But if they just wait here, then no matter what happens, End of All Things is going to go into graveyard where it can get coalesced. So yeah, Purplemurasaki just lets Barx resolve, and InsertName pluses Barx and flips a land, which is a bit unfortunate because they can't make use of it right now. So InsertName passes holding up Still Pandemonium. It seems like Purplemurasaki is finally out of counter spells, but they can crack the clue end of turn to draw a card. Well, no, they're going to End of All Things the Embodied Soul now. And InsertName decides to steal the Pandemonium to counter it. Or no, they're thinking about it. Yeah, they go ahead with countering the End of All Things. So that gets Embodied Soul a counter and gets them a clue that they can crack later on. InsertName still can Tidal Spite for 3 by tapping Barx and Embodied Soul. But bouncing Purplemurasaki's board isn't very useful right now because that just lets Purplemurasaki reuse all their creatures. So InsertName is going to fetch now so that in order to play around Confirm Hypothesis. Purplemurasaki untaps and draws a Portal Fracture, which is still good right now because it makes them tokens. So with InsertName leaving up a plains, that means Embodied Soul can block. But Purplemurasaki has enough mana to just coalesce End of all things to get rid of the Embodied Soul. If they do that, that means that they tap out, which means that whatever InsertName draws next turn, they won't be able to stop. So is Purplemurasaki going to swing into Barx? Yeah, they will. They're going to kill Barx, which allows InsertName to draw a card. So InsertName gets a few draws to try to dig out of this. Although I'm not exactly sure what InsertName needs to get out of the situation. Well, they get Event Horizon. That's not going to help. I think the InsertName just needed to draw either another Barx or really just another one of their Planeswalkers, because right now InsertName just wants top-end Planeswalkers to do stuff. They draw another land, which is not useful either. And with both Barx and Embodied Soul gone, that means InsertName can't power up their Tidal Spite, so they can only Tidal Spite for one. Tidal Spite still bounces the End of all things, which gets rid of it, but, well, I guess it's not like they want to bounce any of Purplemusaki's other creatures, so Tidal Spite for one is fine here, while Purplemusaki's tapped out. And they pass, holding up Event Horizon. They're just really hoping to draw into something next turn that allows them to do stuff, so like one of their Planeswalkers. Purplemurasaki taps and draws ready for anything. So they can just pass here, and then now they have Augmented Thunderbolts in their back pocket. If InsertName doesn't get anything here, I think Purplemurasaki just has lethal next turn. They augmented Thunderbolts, hit InsertName in the face for 9, and then attack for 3 after. Well, no, there'll be 1 off lethal, but pretty close. And Cosmic Sinkhole. So InsertName with Terraform's Globe can Cosmic Sinkhole for 4. With an off-color Nebula, they can Cosmic Sinkhole for 5. Yeah, they make. But now that means InsertName's dead to Augmented Thunderbolts plus attack with 2 1/1s, or 1/2s in this case. But at least Cosmic Sinkhole will be able to stop one of the Thunderbolts at least, I think. Or no, not even, because Purplemurasaki can pay for. They'll have the Cosmic Sinkhole for 5 to stop one of the Thunderbolts. So they won't be completely dead, but they'll be pretty close. Yeah, Purplemurasaki plays ready for anything, allowing them to scry and then draw, and making a tap trigger that probably won't matter this game. They draw a Cane Dancer, which is very good because now they get to Cane Dancer back Portal Fracture if they need to use it. And now here comes Thunderbolts, augmented, copied 3 times. InsertName is forced to Cosmic Sinkhole for 5, one of the copies, so that they don't die to Purplemusaki's creatures next turn. Actually, no, I don't think that even works, because they can try to Cosmic Sinkhole Thunderbolts, but then Purplemusaki just plays Portal Fracture, and then Cane Dancer Portal Fracture, which makes 4 tokens, and then I think that's lethal too, because Thunderbolts still hits for 6 after one of them gets countered. Yeah, Portal Fracture on the Cosmic Sinkhole, making 2 bodies, and InsertName just concedes. So yeah, those 2 games were a huge beating for InsertName. I think Purplemurasaki just drew really well those games. Well, at least game 1 they drew super well. Game 2 they got an average draw. But InsertName just drew pretty poorly those games because they never drew into their Planeswalkers. Like, they just really wanted an early cantripping artifact into Barx, but they never got it. Because early cantripping artifact into Barx is good even in the face of counters, because you get to draw a card if Barx gets countered anyways off the artifact coming back. But instead, InsertName just drew all counter spells. Well, in the first game, they drew all cantripping artifacts and no action. And in the second game, they drew basically all answers, and then a single Embodied Soul that got answered by Purplemusaki's End of All Things and Commanding Princess. So yeah, Purplemurasaki is going to make it the finals.